Hello friends, in the series of learning C++ programming language, in the previous sessions we have just seen what is C++, one program that is to display hello world with the help of C++ language. In this session I am going to explain structure of a C++ program. While learning that hello world program, we have seen what are the parts, but not all parts, because in that we have not declared any class. Only procedure orientation we have used in that program. Why? Because not needed. Okay, just like a C program, we have written simple C++ hello world program. In this session we will talk about all those things, like what are the sections should be included in that C++ program, what is the possible ways, what are the compulsory sections, what are the optional sections, means as per our requirement we can write those sections or we can skip those sections. Everything we will discuss in depth. Now see, in this structure, the first part is a documentation section. Documentation about program that you can write over here in this section. Means see, program title, program creation date, who has developed this program, everything you can write here in this documentation section. That is written in English language. That is not in programming language. That is not in C++. That's why whatever you are writing, that should be skipped by the compiler while execution, and that is possible with the help of comments. We have seen there are actually two types of comments, single line and multi-line comments, and those comments we can use to write documentation of a program. For example, while writing that hello world program, we have seen first line we have written like title of that program is like program to display hello world. Getting that we can write as a documentation, just information about that program, that is nothing but a documentation, and that we can write over here as a first section. Actually this is not compulsory section, but it is good practice to write documentation about that program, because whenever you will open that program again to modify it or to execute it, then you must understand what is this program. Okay, and to get idea about that, you have to write program title, at least program title, right? Now see, the next section is a link section. Link section means header file inclusion you can do here. Okay, and again one more point is there, in C++ program we have to also write their namespace declaration. Means in this session we will write program information about program in this documentation section, program. Then in this link section we have to write header file and namespace declaration. Okay, in all programs at least we have to do input or at least output, and for that we have to include that IO stream header file. Okay, and that inclusion, header file inclusion, that is actually a preprocessor directive, that is actually called as a file inclusion preprocessor directive, and that we have to write in this section. Means whatever inbuilt functionality you want to use in your program, for that you have to include header files in your program. Okay, and those header file inclusion you have to write over here after documentation, inside this link section. And the next one is namespace. This is somewhat different. Namespace, we already discussed some point about this namespace in the previous session. Okay, namespace is what, just it is a container and it is having some functionalities in it. Let there are two containers and both are having same function in it. Then how to call individual function? Then with the namespace you can call that function. See here, one example I am giving here. Let there is one namespace n1 and it is having one function, let display. Okay, and here you have written that code of display. Again one more namespace is there. Let here, for giving some basic idea I am writing this one, so don't worry about syntax, only just try to understand only the conceptually what is namespace. Okay, display, again same thing. In a main I am calling that display function. Then which display should be called, how to get idea about that, that is nothing but n1 scope resolution display. If we are writing like this, then its meaning is like that display, call that display function from n1 namespace. Go getting? Now in a C++ program we write that cout or cin. That cout cin is present in standard namespace. std namespace. Okay, that standard is introduced. This namespace, actually this namespace concept is introduced by ANSI standard. Okay, ANSI C++ standard, and whatever inbuilt, whatever old functionalities present, whatever old objects present, those were all kept inside that std namespace. Okay, means there may be one more cout. Okay, but we have to use here that cout object from that std namespace, and so we have to write like std scope resolution cout, and then we have to write whatever message you want to display. See here, instead of writing this one, you can declare the namespace here, and then that namespace will be considered throughout the program. Get it? In this way. One real life example I am giving here about that namespace. There is a student Ram, and which is in 6th standard. Again in 7th standard, same name is there, Ram. Now how you can differ those two students? Let their surnames are again same. Then you can identify Ram from 6th standard, like Ram from 6th standard, Ram from 7th standard. In this way, you can identify, you can differ those two students. Then that say 6th standard or 7th standard, those are nothing but namespaces. Just some idea. Now again we will discuss that namespace concept totally in a separate session, that is a separate lesson. Don't worry about that. Now here we, in this link section, we have to write that header file and namespace declaration. How? See, in first session we will write the comment in this way, just here program to display hello world. Then in link section, first we write like hash include, then here we write let iostream. Somewhere you have to use that iostream.h if you are using old compilers like Turbo C++. And here you have to write like using namespace then std, because here we are going to use that std namespace which is inbuilt. Now this is nothing but a link section. Getting? Here we have to write that header file inclusion and namespace declaration. Now definition section. See, in C programming language we have seen that a preprocessor directive. Actually this hash include is again a preprocessor directive, but if you want to define any constant in a program, constant means whose value can not change during execution of a program. Okay, that we can do with the help of hash define preprocessor directive. If you want to define any constant, then you have to define like hash define, then let max is a constant, and I want to give maximum value as a 50. Don't give here semicolon, even don't write here equal to, don't write data type, nothing. Okay, now this is what here I am declaring one constant max, and its value is 50 and it will never change. In a program, wherever you will use that max word, the value 50 will get replaced on those places, and max will get replaced by value 50. Getting? And this is nothing but a definition section, that is not again compulsory. Okay, but if you want to define any constant using that hash define preprocessor directive, then you have to write in this way. Getting? Now the next one is global declaration section. C++ is an object oriented language, but it is having still all the functionality from procedure orientation. Means we have seen that global variables are accessible through all the functions. Throughout all the program you can access global variables. Means inside any function you can use that global variable. You can access that global variable. Global means what? It is global means accessible to all. That's it. And that type of variables, if you want to define any global variable in your program, then you can do that with the help of global declaration section, and that you have to write over here after definition section. Means let I want to define one global variable, let pi. Value of pi will never get changed. That's why you can define that pi variable using const keyword. Let I am defining, then I can write like const. That pi is of type float, or you can write here double. Float pi equals to 3.142. Now this is a constant actually whose value cannot be modified during execution of a program. and it is declared before all the functions, because after this I am going to write functions. Means after this we will write that class definition, and after that we will write that main function and other functions. In all the functions, like in main and in other functions, we can access this pi very easily. Getting? Let x equals to 9 suppose. Then this x you can access anywhere in any function. You can access this x very easily because this is now global variable. And this type of declaration you have to do after this hash defined preprocessor directive, but it is again not compulsory. This one is again not compulsory. If you want, you can declare. Now the next thing is class definition. This is very much important point, and this one is different than C language. Now class definition means if you want to create any class. Now class is nothing but a blueprint to represent similar kind of objects that you want to write a program to handle student information. Okay, then I have to create class student. Then how to do that? See, I have to write here, let class, here this I am going to rough. Class definition, how to write that? Just write here class keyword, and then we have to write like class student. Class is a keyword. This is not identifier that you cannot use for identification purpose. But whatever predefined identifiers you can still now use for different purpose, for different identification purpose. Okay, means you can give that main as a name of variable, again you can use. Keep in mind this is somewhat different. There is always confusion in students' mind that how we can use that main. Actually main is a keyword. No, main is not a keyword. Always keep in mind in case of C as well as in case of C++. All keywords should be written in small case letter. This is the rule for C and C++ both. Okay. Now in class student we have to write the two parts. Actually there in class definition there are two parts basically. We have seen that class is a combination of data members and member functions. Data members are nothing but attributes or characteristics of that object, and member functions means how object can do. Okay, actually object or that class is a blueprint to represent similar kind of objects. If you want to represent multiple students, then you can create this class and this will represent all the students. Okay, and all students whatever attributes those are having, like roll number, name, division, class, address, height, weight, marks, those are all attributes about that student. Those we have to write over here, and those are called as data members. Just like variable declaration, you have to declare here all those data members. Okay, here I am not explaining the overall class concept. Again in the next session we will see the class concept in depth. Now here we have to write that public keyword, actually public or private keyword. Again idea about that what is that private, what is that public, everything you will understand in that session. Don't worry about that. First only here we have to write either private or public. Private means only accessible inside class, public means accessible everywhere. Only keep in mind these 2 points. Okay, here we will write like private, then write colon. Again this private is not compulsory. By default all the members of the class are private. And here we'll write like let integer roll number RNO I am writing. Then I want to store name of that student. For that we'll declare one character array name, and here 20 is the size. I want to only store first name. Now here in public section we have to write methods. Methods means member functions. Behavior, what object can do or what you want to do with that object. Again that same thing means we can display information about that student, we can accept information about that student. Those type of methods or member functions we can write over here after data members. Means here we have to write like let void get student info or get data. You can give any name, get data let, and here you have to write code for that. Here again one more method I am writing, that is a member function actually. Void put a data, or you can write display. Okay, and here you have to write code for that, then close and give semicolon. Actually this is the syntax of writing class, and this class is now user defined data type. and that student data type, now that class student, that student data type we can use to create any number of objects, and those objects are nothing but variables. Okay, now that class definition we have to write first after this global declaration section. Getting? Again, this one is not compulsory. If you want to use object orientation in your program, then only use this class definition, this section you have to write here class. Now next one is main function definition. This is always compulsory. Okay, means your program should have this main function definition, because always execution starts with main, ends at main. Operating system, whenever you want to execute that program, then operating system will call that main, and whatever execution that will be done, and again control will be shifted, means whatever value if you want to return from that main function, that will be returned to the operating system. Getting? Means main function is the main function of every C++ program. That is a compulsory part. You can write any number of other functions again after main, that is the user defined function section. If you want to add any other functions, then you can add those, you can write those after main, but those functions we have to call directly or indirectly through this main, then only those functions will get executed. Okay, but main function is always compulsory part of our C++ program. Now how to write that? Like just after this we can write like void main. You can write here int main, void main, anything. Okay, like if you are writing here integer main, then code you have to write over here, and finally we will write that return 0. Return 0, what is the meaning of this return 0? See, return 0 means here we are returning that 0 value to the operating system, because operating system will call this function, execution will be done, and finally we are returning 0 value from this function. 0 value is means represents that successful execution of that program. Getting? Now see, here we can create any number of local variables again. Here in this section we have to write or declare global variables, and here to inside that main we can declare local variable to the mains, means if you need those. Then in any other functions, means here again you are writing some any other functions, like I want to write sum function here. I will write like integer sum, and I want to pass two arguments here like integer a comma integer b, and here we will return that addition, like return a plus b. Okay, here in this way if I am writing that sum function, then here again you can declare local variables. Okay, and this is nothing but a user defined function. Okay, this function is not present, not built in the language. We are writing this function. We can call this function any number of times from anywhere. Okay, now this is nothing but a user defined function. Actually all these concepts are already in C language, and we have covered all these concepts properly in that C language. Just go through the series and just first learn that part, and then you will get better idea. Means you will understand very easily. Again I am here repeating all those points. Now here we have written this user defined function, then main function. This one is a class definition. In this way these sections are included in our C++ program, but all are not compulsory, but some of them are compulsory. Now let us see. First, documentation section, means here you can write the program explanation, means whatever information about that program that you can write over here in this section. Now next one is link section, means here header file and namespace. Next one is definition section, means here you can define that constant using that hash defined preprocessor directive. Next one is global declaration section, means if you want to share some variables throughout the program in all the functions, by all the functions, then you can declare those variables before that class or before that main, outside that main. Okay, then that will be the global variable, and that will be accessible by all the functions in our program, and that is global declaration section. Next one is class definition. Actually this documentation section is not compulsory. Then link section is a compulsory section, means if you want to use input output in a program, then you have to include that header file, it is compulsory. Then you have to write that namespace, it is compulsory again. Next one is a Class definition, if you want to use object orientation in your program, then compulsory you have to define class first. This member function definitions, you can just declare here and you can define these member functions outside the class. That is again possible. If you are defining these outside the class, after closing this class, you have to define those member functions first and then write main. Okay, and after that, if you want to write any user defined function, then you can write after main. Getting? Then see this one, this class definition is again not compulsory, but main is a compulsory. Okay, this one is a compulsory and user defined is not compulsory. Means here compulsory parts are only this link section, then this main function. These are only the two compulsory parts. Those we have used while writing that hello world program. We have covered the structure of C++ program, and in the next session we will see the variable and keyword concept. Okay, till that take care, bye bye, thank you.